Welcome. Today we're diving into a speech that sent shockwaves around the globe, Donald Trump's recent address at the United Nations General Assembly. This wasn't just another political moment, it was a turning point that sparked fierce debate and strong emotions worldwide. We're going beyond the headlines to break down 6 of the most controversial quotes from that speech. My goal isn't to tell you what to think, but to give you the context and the bigger picture behind these powerful words. We'll look at what was said, why it matters, and what it means for all of us. Words can build bridges or create divides, inspire hope or stir fear, and these words did all of that. That's why it's crucial to examine their impact, not just globally, but personally. This is our chance to be informed, engaged, and to find our own truth amid the noise. Let's get started. Let's really listen. The first quote, "Your countries are going to hell." It's a line that instantly grabs attention, echoing through the vast chamber and beyond. Imagine being a world leader, hearing that in the UN's Grand Hall, a place built for diplomacy, not confrontation. The words hang in the air, heavy and unmistakable. Trump was addressing immigration and border security, warning that open border policies would lead to disaster. He painted a stark picture of chaos and instability, suggesting that without strong borders, nations would lose control of their destinies. He positioned himself as the authority, claiming unique insight and experience. Trump's tone was unwavering, as if he alone saw the dangers others ignored. For supporters, this was Trump's trademark bluntness, calling out what others won't. They saw it as refreshing honesty, a leader unafraid to speak hard truths. For critics, it was an insult, dismissing the complexities of migration and the spirit of international cooperation. Many felt it undermined years of careful diplomacy. The room's reaction was a mix of shock, discomfort, and for some, silent agreement. Some leaders exchanged glances, others sat stone-faced. This wasn't just policy critique, it was a sweeping judgment on entire nations' futures. The message was personal and impossible to ignore. By using such stark language, Trump set a confrontational tone, challenging the global consensus. He made it clear he was willing to disrupt the status quo. He drew a line, his way, strict borders and national sovereignty, or chaos. There was no middle ground in his message. The world was the audience and the message was clear, change course or face ruin. Every nation was being warned, not just advised. This moment forced everyone to confront what leadership means, brutal honesty or diplomatic bridge building. The debate was now front and center. It's a statement that still echoes, demanding a response from every listener. The impact lingers, shaping conversations long after the speech ended. Is there room for such bluntness in diplomacy, or does it deepen divides? The world continues to wrestle with that question. This quote set the stage for the rest of his speech, ensuring every word that followed would be scrutinized. The world was on notice, and the conversation had only just begun. Next, Trump declared, "I've been right about everything. Not, I believe I was right, but everything." He cited his foreign policy record, claiming to have ended wars and deserved a Nobel Peace Prize. For his followers, this confidence is strength, a leader who never doubts, who claims victory even when unrecognized. For opponents, it's arrogance, a refusal to admit mistakes or learn from the past. This statement reveals his leadership philosophy, absolute self-belief, not humility or collaboration. On the world stage, such certainty can be seen as either reliability or dangerous inflexibility. Trump was rewriting his legacy in real time, urging the world to accept his version of history. The question, is truth discovered through debate or declared by the powerful? His speech chose the latter, challenging the foundations of global diplomacy. This wasn't just ego, it was a statement about how he sees leadership and truth. For some, it's inspiring. For others, deeply troubling. The world was left to decide, is this the model of leadership we want? Can a leader ever be right about everything? Or does real strength come from admitting when you're wrong? The debate continues. Trump shifted gears, criticizing the UN's headquarters. "I would have given you marble floors, mahogany walls." The line was more than a jab at architecture. It was a statement about standards, about what he believes the world's most important institution should represent. In Trump's view, the UN deserved not just a facelift, but a transformation, one that matched his own vision of luxury and power. He recounted offering to renovate the building, using this as a metaphor for the UN's lack of vision and ambition. Trump's proposal wasn't just about aesthetics, It was about setting a new standard, about showing what could be achieved if boldness replaced bureaucracy. For supporters, it's classic Trump. Problem solver, builder, offering practical solutions rejected by bureaucrats. They see him as someone who gets things done, unafraid to challenge the status quo and push for excellence where others settle for mediocrity. For critics, it's self-aggrandizing, turning a global address into a personal branding moment. They argue he uses the spotlight to elevate his own image, making the story about himself rather than the institution. The story is more than about architecture, it's about being unappreciated, the outsider with better ideas ignored by the establishment. Trump positions himself as the maverick, the one with the courage to say what others won't. Marble and mahogany become symbols of his brand, luxury, strength, and success. They're not just materials, but statements of intent, of what he believes leadership should look like. He contrasts his world of opulence with what he sees as the UN's mediocrity, highlighting the gap between his standards and those of the global institution. The anecdote is a parable, Trump as the visionary, the UN as resistant to change. It's a story about ambition meeting inertia, about the friction between innovation and tradition. Is this a leader who sees every problem as a construction project, or is it a clever way to undermine the institution's credibility? For many, it's both. A blend of genuine vision and calculated showmanship. The message, the UN could have had greatness, but settled for less. It's a challenge, a provocation, and a lament all at once. It's a personal slight wrapped in a political critique. Trump's words sting because they're meant to, forcing a conversation about standards and missed opportunities. The line blurs between business and diplomacy, between personal ambition and public service. Trump's standard of excellence becomes the measure for global institutions, raising the question of whose vision should define the future. The metaphor lingers. What does it say about the world's willingness to accept change, and who gets to decide what greatness looks like? On climate change, Trump called it a hoax made up by people with evil intentions. The words echoed through the chamber, a direct challenge to the global consensus on climate science. This wasn't skepticism, it was outright accusation delivered at the UN, which champions climate action. The statement stunned many in the room as the world watched a leader reject decades of scientific research. Hoax implies deliberate deception. Evil intentions turns disagreement into a moral battle. Suddenly, the debate wasn't just about facts, but about trust, motives, and the very character of those involved. He linked climate policy to immigration, painting both as threats orchestrated by malicious actors. In his narrative, these issues weren't separate. They were part of a larger plot against national sovereignty. For his base, this validated their suspicions and frustrations about climate policies and global elites. It reinforced a worldview where outside forces were always to blame. For most world leaders and scientists, it was dangerous denial, rejecting overwhelming evidence and undermining urgent action. The scientific community saw years of work dismissed in a single phrase. The language left no room for debate or compromise. It was heroes versus villains. The possibility of nuanced discussion vanished, replaced by suspicion and outrage. By tying climate and immigration together, he created a unified theory of globalist destruction. This narrative blurred the lines between environmental policy and national identity. Supporters saw liberation. Opponents saw betrayal and abdication of responsibility. The divide grew sharper, with each side more convinced of its own righteousness. The phrase evil intentions erased the possibility of good faith disagreement. It cast doubt on anyone who questioned his view, making dialogue nearly impossible. This rhetoric simplifies complex issues, galvanizing his base and deepening divides. It transformed policy debates into personal battles, with lasting consequences. The statement forced a reckoning. When science becomes partisan, where is common ground? The world was left to wonder if facts could ever bridge such a divide. Trump wasn't there to debate, he was there to declare. His words were a line in the sand, daring others to cross it. The result? A world further polarized, with little room for negotiation. The hope for consensus faded as sides hardened. The climate debate became a battle line. Compromise seemed impossible, and the world watched as the rift only deepened. On the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, Trump warned, the rewards would be too great for Hamas terrorists. He argued that recognizing a Palestinian state now would reward terrorism, linking Palestinian aspirations to Hamas's actions. The precondition release all Israeli hostages before any progress. For supporters, this was moral clarity, no compromise with terrorists, prioritizing hostages' lives. For critics, it was collective punishment, denying millions their rights because of one group's actions. Trump's stance, no statehood until justice is served, no rewards for violence. The issue became a moral absolute, not a political problem to solve. For Israeli families, his words offered hope. For Palestinians, despair. The statement rejected ongoing diplomatic efforts, offering a hardline alternative. The conflict's complexity was reduced to a simple equation: no rewards for terror. The world was forced to choose sides. Is justice denying statehood, or is it ending collective suffering? Trump's position left little room for negotiation. The debate over peace and justice grew even more polarized. The path forward became even more uncertain. Trump's final quote: "They're funding the war against themselves." He accused European nations of hypocrisy, opposing Russia in Ukraine while buying Russian energy. The logic was simple. You can't fund your adversary and claim to fight them. He called for immediate action, break energy dependence, no matter the cost. Supporters saw a shrewd businessman exposing uncomfortable truths. European leaders saw oversimplification. Untangling energy ties isn't easy or painless. Trump's words forced a reckoning. Is economic stability worth funding an opponent? He held up a mirror to Europe, challenging their resolve and leadership. The statement reflected his transactional worldview. Power is about leverage, not alliances. He reminded the world of his past warnings, claiming vindication. The message real opposition means real sacrifice. Europe was challenged to prove its principles with action, not just words. The contradiction was laid bare for all to see. Trump's challenge chose between comfort and conviction. The world was left to grapple with pragmatism versus principle. The debate over energy, war, and values intensified. We've explored 6 moments that shook the world. Trump's UN speech wasn't just political. It was a global performance that forced us to confront our beliefs about leadership, truth, and the future. These words have redrawn battle lines and challenged the very purpose of global institutions. But what matters most is what happens next. How we process, discuss, and engage with these ideas. Your perspective is vital to this ongoing conversation. Which quote resonated or troubled you most? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you found value in this deep dive, subscribe and join us for more explorations. Thank you for being part of this conversation.